Chapter 12 Castle Coming Queens. Saturday morning dawned bright and early, and Mal woke up with the sun. She had been unable to sleep the night before, thinking about the day to come. Tonight they will return to the Isle of the Lost to confront this sinister anti-heroes organization, most likely headed up by the biggest villains in the land. We can do this. We have to, she thought to herself, but a small, worried part of her was anxious just the same. I'm terrified too, Evie said, when she saw the look on Mal's face as they got ready for the day. But like you said, we can handle it. I think Jay said that. Yes, but we all know you're the one who's going to make it happen, Evie said confidently. And if you don't, well, at least your lip gloss won't fade. She handed Mal a full jar of purple tint. You know what my mom always says, beauty is as beauty is. Mal smiled at Evie, and Evie smiled at Mal. It was wonderful to have supportive friends, especially when they were good at conjuring up cosmetics. Mal carefully applied the gloss, liking the way it matched her purple varsity jacket. Evie told her she'd meet her at the game and headed to the library to check on Maleficent one last time before they left. Her mother was curled around a rock. She looked so tiny and helpless that it was hard to imagine she could have had anything to do with the mischief that was going down on the Isle. If there's anything you want to say to me, if you can change back, you should let me know, Mom, she told the tiny lizard. But Maleficent just kept sleeping on her warm rock. Fine, said Mal. I'll see you when I get back. She left the library and walked to breakfast. The entire campus was festooned with balloons and banners, a lively feeling in the air as students walked around with their parents. She saw Aubrey with her mother Aurora, poring over the class pictures that hung in the hallways. Doug was taking a family of dwarfs on a prospective student's tour. This is where we have choir practice. I'm sure your kids will love singing in it, Mal overheard him say proudly. For a brief moment, Mal wished she could have been one of those kids showing off the school to their parents. But Maleficent had never once attended a villain teacher conference back at Dragon Hall, and it was futile to think she would find anything to admire about Auradon Prep. But she didn't have time to worry about feeling out of place on Castle Coming Day. Friendly students mobbed her, eager to introduce her to their parents. Come meet my parents, said Lonnie, introducing her to Mulan and Li Shang. Mother, this is Mal. I told you all about her, said Allie, who pulled Alice away from admiring the students' artwork displayed on the walls. Mal shook so many hands and smiled so much her dimples were starting to hurt. People in Auradon were so nice, it was a little exhausting. She had wished Ben were back already. He was still out of town, and he'd let her know he was sorry, but he wouldn't be able to make it back in time for the tourney game or the dance after all. Mal was surprised to find that she was actually quite disappointed about that, but at least she and Evie would still have fun, and Mal would never admit it out loud, but dancing with her friends was nearly as good as going on a date with the King of Auradon. Mal, over here, Evie called from the other end of the hall. Mal joined her side and they walked together to the tourney stadium. The band was already playing the Auradon fight song as they found their seats. Evie handed her a piece of white silk. What's this for? Mal asked, noticing that everyone in the nearby crowd had one. The stands on the Auradon side were full of people holding the white silk streamers, waving them gaily around. To cheer on our knights, duh, Evie replied, waving hers. Mal inspected it closely. Hankies? It's what ladies used to wave to their knights, you know, back when they had real tourneys with horses. They used to call it waving their colors. Don't you remember? We learned about it in class. The royal history of Auradon, Mal recalled now. She waved her white hanky, though really this practice probably should have stayed behind in the Middle Ages. The crowd cheered when the Auradon Knights took the field. Mal and Evie hooted wildly when Jay and Carlos were introduced. Carlos waved, smiling behind his helmet, and Jay gave them a thumbs up. Chad was nowhere in the starting lineup and pouted from the bench. The game was a close one. Without Ben to help Jay with the tourney plays, the Lost Boys nearly defeated the Knights on their home turf, but in the end, Jay set up Carlos for the winning score, and the stands exploded in celebration. I'm glad we decided to stay for the game, Mal said to Evie. Jay was right. We needed to be here. The girls went back to their rooms to change into their dresses for the dance. Remember, we're only staying for a little bit. Then we have to leave and change it to Lonnie and Aubrey's gowns and meet the boys in the parking lot, said Mal as she fluffed up her lavender skirts in the mirror. The dress had just enough volume without being fussy, and the dark leather cap sleeves were embellished with tiny black crystals, which meant they shimmered in the light but didn't look princessy. Right, said Evie, sounding doubtful. Evie, Mal said, what's the matter? This is the plan. But let's not go so soon, okay? Can't we have a little fun at least? She wheedled until Mal had to agree. I promised Doug we'd do the hi-ho slide. Does he know about our plan? Mal asked. She hadn't forbidden the group to tell anybody, but assumed they wouldn't. No, I didn't tell him. I didn't want him to have to lie for me. Evie straightened her tiara and took a deep breath. Plus, I don't want him to worry. As far as he'll know, I'll be leaving the dance with a bad stomachache, and then I'll be in my room with the flu all weekend like we agreed. I'm sorry we have to go so soon, Mal said. I know how much you love dances. You really look like... The fairest? Asked Evie with a cheeky grin. Let's just say every princess at the dance is definitely safe from a huntsman tonight, said Mal. Okay, let's do this, said Evie. They linked arms and headed out the door. The ballroom was festooned with so many balloons that it was hard to see the top of the ceiling. Gold bunting and blue ribbons hung everywhere. It's perfect, Evie sighed. That's a whole lot of balloons, Mal said. You think? I was worried it wouldn't be enough, said Evie. I doubled the order. They waved to Lonnie, who was manning the turntables at the DJ booth. The Oradon tourney team trooped in, handsome in their formal wear, and Jay and Carlos found them exuberant and smiling. They were the stars of the evening, surrounded by a group of admiring friends and teammates, while Chad sulked by the punch. Evie left to dance with Doug, and Jay and Carlos headed for the buffet tables. Mal picked at her food and checked the clock. She was impatient to get going, and was relieved when it was finally time to gather up her team. She elbowed Jay, and he reluctantly put down the plate of desserts he was holding. Let's go, she said. I'll grab Evie, you get Carlos, and we'll meet you at the car. Mal felt her stomach flip as they set their plan in motion. Sure, she had faced down Maleficent once before, but who knew what kind of darkness awaited them this time? Alas, there was only one way to find out.